Tonight on Chimstock Africa, we listen to the love story of Zane, the popular South African actor, and his wife Megan, as they go back to their decades of marriage and share the joy, the pain, and the secret of their enduring love. Tonight on Chimstock Africa. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chimstock Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Hi there, welcome to this segment of your show. Like I said in the introduction, my guest today is Mr. Zane Meas and his dear wife Megan. And I'm so delighted. I had you before, Zane, and we shared about your journey and all that. But
yes,
to be able to have you and your wife here today, sharing about your love journey, wow, I can't wait to listen. Megan, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Zane, welcome.
Thank you again, Jim. Great to be here again.
Thank you, Jim.
Where did you guys meet? Well, first of all, let's establish this. How long have you been married, Megan?
2024 will be 30 years.
Yes.
30 years
30
this
years.
year.
You got it right.
Yeah. Oh, you want,
I wanted to, yes, it was a
I always go 30. I'm always a year ahead. I think 31.
Oh,
She's
that's
going
why
back.
she pointed at you and said, let me see this.
I wanted to see.
I thought it was last year.
So now, what would you give him as his present, you know?
Yeah.
Look at how quickly he got it.
Yeah.
I'll make him a
You
nice
sort it
meal.
out.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yes.
You know, that in itself, it's, if we say nothing and just walk away from this set, that in itself is a message.
Yes, it is.
30 years, husband and wife,
Yes.
holding each other, loving each other, and you have how many children?
We have 5 children.
5 children.
Luckily, we'll be able to put up the pictures at
Yes.
some point. But
Yes,
how
we'll send
how did you meet? Let me start with you, Megan. Where did you find this man?
I had to travel all the way from Zimbabwe to meet him.
Tell me how it happened.
My father is South African, and I grew up in Zimbabwe and Zambia. And when I was a bit older, I was planning to immigrate overseas, and my dad said to me that go to South Africa, you've got family there, you haven't met them, go spend some time there, and then you can travel. And on my trip here, I think I met him in the first probably couple of weeks of me being here.
Wow.
And that's how we met,
When
through
she
a family
walked through the
member.
door, when she walked through the door where I was, Jim, I went, that's my wife.
Oh, you went there.
I said immediately,
Yeah.
that's my wife.
What informed that? What
Nothing,
informed
just
that?
God. God whispered and said, that's your wife walking through the
Immediately
door.
you saw her. Is it her beauty or is
What you can see, she's beautiful.
it? Yeah. So what informed
And,
it? She stood
No,
out.
it's just, yeah, absolutely. It was just something inside.
Inside of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something leapt.
Yeah.
Megan, did you
Yeah,
feel the same way too when you saw him immediately?
No.
No. So what happened? Let's see how the journey. So this man was sure, and you were like, "Who is this dude?" So
I was.
How did the two journeys meet to come? Yes, on the
Yeah.
two sides. So how did it turn around for you?
Look, I think for me, when I met him, I met a whole load of people as well, because I had a family member that was in school with Zane.
Okay.
And when I came to South Africa, they took me around and we visited people. They showed me the sights and everything. So I met him in a very social setting, and there were lots of people there, lots of distractions, you know. But we started meeting up more regularly, spending time
So
together.
you intentionally planned those meetings because he knew already.
I planned the meetings. I planned the meetings. Megan didn't know. I don't think she
meet this lady.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, he had an ulterior motive, you see. Yeah.
I thought he was just a nice
Yes,
guy.
yes,
Yeah.
and he was, you know, and I think that's what struck me first and mostly about Zane, is that he is a good man, and they're very hard to find. And there are very few men that can commit unconditionally. And he is one of those men that does that. He commits with his whole heart. You know, if he's in something, he's in it 150%. And in this day and age, and even in those days, 30 years ago, you know, to find a man that can stand his ground, stand for what he believes in, commit fully, you know, there were no games or, you know, oh, let me see if I do this, she'll do that, or if I say this, how will she respond? There was none of that. There was no, it was just very open and very honest. And I think for me, that was, as a woman, and I think any woman will resonate with this, that's what you look for. When you're looking for somebody to share the rest of your life with. And when we met, we weren't really saved. You know, I think God had just started speaking to Zane. I wasn't saved. I grew up in the Methodist church. And, you know, so even at that time, I knew that I was looking for something. I knew I was looking for steadfast. I was looking for faithful. I was looking for somebody that would be there for me forever and unconditional. And that's what I found.
You know, you're saying some very profound things, because we're talking to a generation now that doesn't know how to look.
No.
And so you're putting some parameters out there. You're not going for the fluffy feeling or how do I, because those come and go.
Yes.
Yeah. You're going for, I'm looking for commitment. I'm looking for character.
Yes.
I'm looking for, so you had that in your mind even before you met Mr. Right, if you like to say. So you came with that?
Yes.
So it's important you know what you're looking for?
You know, I think so. I think that we often, and again, going back to the young people of this day and age, they often liken themselves to what's happening on social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and they see how others live out their lives. And there's an immediate comparison of that life versus my life. And those, if you look at all of those platforms, those are short snippet platforms, 10-second platforms. You know, if something is 3 minutes long, they tell you it's too long to put on TikTok, it's too long to put on Facebook, you're going to lose people's attention. And that translates directly, I think, into the lifestyle and how people approach their lives, because and relationships. So they look for, if it looks good for 10 seconds, that's okay. You know, because they don't understand. And I think the responsibility on us that have been married, you know, for a long time, and as the older generation, is to show them that there is a different way and there is a better way. And if we can model it in how we live, not how we speak, but how we live, then, you know, I think it can influence and it can catch the generation.
So what were you looking for?
In my wife?
Yes. I mean, you saw her and it's like, that's the person, but what were you looking for? Or you have no list in that sense?
No, I you know, I as I mentioned in my earlier discussion with you, that I had gone through a very bad patch at that time. And I was looking for something different in a relationship. I was, you know, very, just came out of a bad relationship, a long-term relationship. So I was looking for something different, and Megan, I pursued her because I saw God spoke to me. You know, when the Bible speaks that the baby in Elizabeth leapt when Mary walked in with the baby Jesus in her, I think that's what happened. Something leapt inside of me. So I pursued Megan for months. I set up things so we could meet.
To cry.
Yeah, I could set up things and so we could meet, and always seeing her going off with another guy or something, and we're like, Lord, are you sure? You said to me, you know. And then eventually when we did get together, God took us on another journey again, because we were pregnant before we got married. Yes. So that was another thing. She comes out of a Methodist background. I come, as I mentioned, out of a Catholic background. It was frowned upon. You know, back then, being pregnant before you were married was a big thing. Yes. Not like today. It's every second person is now.
And it was good the way it was then. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I had just gone through my experience of giving my heart to the Lord. So there was a lot of condemnation again.
So tell me about, this is important here. First of all, this same period was when you guys gave your life to Christ.
Yes.
Yes.
And
just before
the pregnancy.
Well, no. I think I was going through that
Yes.
period of giving my heart to the Lord.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Then we felt pregnant.
Okay.
And then there was condemnation. So you're going like, did we do the right thing now? What's the people? And then we had a pastor come to us and say to us, listen, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But don't be out in the world. Come to church. Because we said, no, we can't come to church.
Yeah.
And he said,
We're not
no,
married.
please come.
Yeah,
And he said, yeah. he
Please
said,
come, at least be in the flock rather than out
In
there
the
where the
fold.
world is. You know, Jim, our pastor Stan, we got married in that church.
Wow.
No, first we got baptized.
No, we got married first.
Oh, yeah.
We got married first. Then we got baptized in that church.
Wow, together.
Yes.
And then we were in leadership in the church. And when that pastor retired, we took over the church.
Wow, wow.
He installed us as the leaders of the church.
That's a father there.
That
Yes,
is
he
a
is.
father. You see what I'm saying when I
Yes,
spoke
he
about
is.
fatherhood? That
Yes.
I had good role models.
So that would have been a point of disaster for you.
Yes.
Could have been.
How
It
did you-
really could
How
have
did
been.
you face that? Coming from the Methodist Church, how did you?
Well,
He said about his own part, but the emotions,
Yes.
the guilt. How did you?
yes. I think, for me, I was 25 at the time that we met and I fell pregnant. And saying I'm coming from a Methodist church, having said that, we weren't active in the church. I wasn't active in the church.
Born again, yes.
I wasn't born again, none of that. I mean, I knew the concept of God and, Jesus Christ and his son, and I knew all the Sunday school songs and those kinds of things and a couple of scriptures. So I was just kind of there, and I think for me there was some condemnation because that wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
It really wasn't in my plan. And I had to think about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life and, did I want to do it with this guy? And then there was going back home, going back to Zimbabwe and saying to my parents, I am going to have it. And I couldn't. I really couldn't. So my elder sister did that for me. She went to them because my parents were divorced, so she had to go to both sets of parents and explain to them what had happened. And then the funny thing is that my father came up to South Africa twice
To meet.
during the pregnancy. He didn't, those days there were no cell phones, or you had to write a letter or make a phone call, and you couldn't leave a message. And so he had 2 trips that were very impromptu trips.
Wow.
And on both of those trips, he thought, I'm going to go through Johannesburg and
Meet this
try
guy.
and meet this guy. And he didn't. So
I was
twice
away
he came
both.
to South Africa and he was away both times.
Yeah.
And so that was quite an interesting one. And my father, Zane, spoke earlier, I think, in your guys' conversations about what a boy wants and what a girl needs. And one thing my father always spoke into his daughters, there are 5 daughters and 1 son. What he always spoke into us was about our value. And Zane said that if a man tells his daughter first that he loves her, that he's proud of her, that she's capable, then in her looking for a partner, for somebody to share her life with, she's already had that fed into her. She's already had it planted in her, so that when she starts looking, she doesn't fall for the first guy that whispers sweet nothings in her ear or buys her extravagant gifts, because she already has that and she's got that substance. And I had that. And when
That's
I told
why
Zane,
I worked so hard.
yes,
I worked so hard.
Your formulas that you use for it,
yes, no. And when I told him that I was pregnant, he asked me, and I don't know if you remember, but he asked me to marry him. He said, "Do you want me to marry you?" And I said no, because I didn't want to get married for the sake of a baby. And I mean, we knew each other, but we hadn't been together
for a long while.
years and years, So I said no.
You wanted to get to know him.
Yes, and also I wasn't sure that I wanted to be with this man for the rest of my life. But I think in that process, God is so gracious in everything. The book of Romans tells us that He works all things together for our good, and for because we're called. And if I look back at how everything worked out in that time, you can see God's hand on the decisions we made, the conversations we had, how our families responded, and how we met Pastor Stan Carolus, and how we eventually came together, and how he has carried us through this journey, and it has worked together for our good, for his purpose.
I'm talking about working together 30 years after this year.
Yeah.
Zane, what do you say is the secret? 30 years is not a short time. A child has become more than an adult.
Yes.
More than an adult.
Well,
so what's been the secret?
one word, it's going to shock people: fight.
Fight.
No. But fight for your marriage.
Okay.
Not fight with each other.
Okay.
And we've had fights,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
My wife is very independent and very free thinking.
You have fun
She
of
doesn't sit
that
back.
with
Yeah,
strong lady.
she doesn't sit back, you know. So we have interesting fights, but we make sure, and we learned very early, I think, to not let the fight carry on for too long. In fact, don't let the sun go down when your anger became our thing. Because I would punish my wife with my silence.
Yeah.
She's a communicator,
Yeah.
and I would
Always
realize
with a
that. So
man, and he's like-
I would just retreat, and I knew it would hurt her, and I had to repent of that and change it. And instead of fighting with her, we've now learned to fight for this
Yes.
marriage. 30 years. You know, 30 years is not a.
fight for
30 years is not a
short time.
short time. You've got to fight for what you want. You've got to fight for what you believe in. Through the temptations, through the difficult times, through the no money, through whatever it is, through those times, you fight for this marriage. And I'm blessed to have had a woman who, even through the times when I was at my lowest, and I could literally pull the family with me, that she was there to help lift me up, you know. That because families, as we spoke on the other day about, the father is the anchor of the home. The father is when the father's there, that family flourishes. But when the father falls, you know, when wives fall, when kids fall, we're there to pick them up as parents. When dads fall, who's there to pick them up?
Nobody's there to pick them up.
And luckily, that's why God gave you a strong woman to be able to say, hey, I'm here with you. We're going to see this thing through. You know, my wife also likes nice things. Let me say that. I think all women like nice things. You know, they want.
I looked at his eyes, I said, he's trying to get everybody to say,
yeah. It's exactly. Women like nice things. And so there are very often times where she had to sacrifice those things and so on, to be able to make sure that the basics are there, or that I don't lose my integrity or testimony because of not being able to supply. And it's a give and take thing. Over 30 years, you learn when to be strong and when to step back. You learn when to fight and when to say, okay, now's not the time.
let me lose this
You
one.
learn when it's time to be quiet. That's the most important thing. And when it's time to speak.
Yeah.
30 years takes you to learn that. You know, you don't come after 3 years and go, we're the perfect couple. No. In the first 3 years of the marriage, you found out stuff. You're going to, who did I marry? Oh my word.
I don't recognize this person.
I don't recognize this guy.
What have I got in myself?
You know.
Exactly.
And so you work it out. And I'm glad to say that we've been through so much. You know, 5 children also. And just the way we God has been, you know, the very first, when she told me she was pregnant, this was a nice thing. And I said to her, Megan, you know, I've just given my heart to the Lord. I believe we must, whatever happens now, we've got to pull God into this.
Yes.
And we're going to make God the third party in you and I's relationship and the baby coming. So we'll be four people walking this path. And it's been like that for 30 years, in that God has been
So that's the
part of this relationship. Yes,
That's
he's
the
held us,
cord,
he's bound
yes.
us together.
Megan, what do you say? He said it's fight, and he explained it. And of course, he introduced this issue that it's the cord.
Yes.
What would you say is the secret? Not borrowing his word. In your view, what has been you guys' secret to this lasting love?
So I think our secret, I don't know if you would call it a secret, but I think for us what's really been important is that is that unity. So when Zane said we need to make God part of this, this is what I'm going through right now in my life, what do you think about it? And I was okay with, you know, I said, okay, that makes sense. So we were in agreement. I think maybe that's the word, is to be in agreement. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree. but you're still in agreement in the sense that, okay, you know, your position is this, my position is that. We're going to agree to disagree. But in that disagreement, we're going to learn a little bit more about each other in this particular aspect. And for us, I think it's been that unity. Whatever decisions we've made together. Whether it's around finance, children, our faith, which church we go to, where we live, what school we send the children to, we've been in agreement. And when we haven't been in agreement, we've had to fight to get to that agreement.
The fight you talked about.
Yes, because as you said earlier, the flutters in the heart and, you know, the stomach palpitations, that goes away. You know, after the first couple of years, that doesn't last. And the secret is to try and not make it, no, it doesn't go away completely.
Yeah, but
it doesn't go away completely.
You can't hold, what you're saying, you can't hold, it's like our feelings.
Yes,
We need our feelings, we can't be human beings without emotions.
Absolutely.
Feelings, but they are fickle.
They are very, very fickle. And that, you know, because the storms of life will hit us.
Yeah.
Jesus said in this life we are going to have trials. And we do have trials. And when those storms come, what is your rules of engagement?
Yeah.
What have you guys agreed upon? Have you decided, okay, well, when we fight, this is how we're going to fight? Because we will have arguments. We will have difficult times. How are we going to approach it together? And when we do counseling with couples who are wanting to get married, and it's so interesting because we've had counseling experiences with couples from very diverse backgrounds. So one couple, for example, was an Afrikaans colored man, and a colored man, he spoke Afrikaans, but his wife was white, traditional Afrikaans. So very different coming together. Another couple was the woman came from a Muslim background and he was Christian. And it's wonderful to say now that they're both serving the Lord.
Born again, yeah.
And then the other one was a very traditional Zulu man with a colored girl from Namibia. So we've had those experiences, and in those discussions we've had to say to them, find out what your rules of engagement are and agree upon it, because you've got to go in with both eyes wide open. You know, the lovey-dovey stuff does last, and how you maintain it is what keeps that little fire going and makes it last, because then you don't lose the respect for the other person. You don't lose the like, not the love. You don't lose the like for the other person in those times. Yes. 20 times.
My wife has never
Zane,
laughed at my jokes.
Yeah. No, I laughed the first time.
Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
I laughed the first time.
Not the 20th
Not
time.
the 20th time. I just smiled.
Give me a new one.
Yes.
Tell me how you you know, I just kept quiet because there's so much to glean from what you're saying, man. Go on and on and. Hi there and welcome back. I trust that you were blessed and encouraged by just getting to know this couple, Zane and Megan, and I thank God for their life. Like you know, we'll be going into the part 2 of that episode next week, and I don't want you to miss it, because this couple is so real. They're the real deal, and there's so much to learn from their challenges. Next week they'll be challenging us with some of the ways they overcame some mountains that they faced in their years of marriage. But before we go today, I want to challenge you with the state of evangelism in Israel. Many of us know Israel is on the news right away with the Palestinian war, the Gaza war. We're hearing of multitude being killed. And of course, on this episode, on this program, some episodes ago, we had with us one of my guests talking about the need for Christians to have compassion on the Palestinians. But I really want to just talk today about something many Christians don't realize, that Israel as a nation is an unreached nation, in the sense that often we talk about the Muslim nations. Israel is like an island in the Middle East, because surrounded by all the Muslim nations, but it's the Jewish, the people who follow the Jewish religion, the religion of the Old Testament. But you know that the Lord Jesus Christ came to remove that Old Testament and bring a New Testament through the sacrifice of his body. And we do know that up to today, for centuries, it has been very, very, very difficult to see a harvest among the Jews. Many of us don't realize how much missionaries have constantly been needed to be among the Jews in Israel. It is recorded that in the last few years, at least in the last 15, 20 years, there's been a shift. Before then, it was difficult to find Jews, Israelites that were coming to Jesus. They was as difficult as reaching out in any of the other Muslim countries. And I would say due to the history the Jews have also faced. For centuries before the Second World War, there was always this antagonism from so-called Christians who used to label Jews as Christ killers and so persecute them. But since the Second World War, there has been a shift in Christian sentiments towards the Jews, so that more and more Christians around the world are even going to what I'll call the extreme. The extreme is where some Christians seem to look at the Jews as if they're already Christians and forget the fact that they are lost. If you read the book of Romans, Paul spent a whole chapter, I believe this was chapter 9 and chapter 10, where he was weeping over the fact that the Jews were not saved. They have rejected the Jesus Christ sent to them. And this is a big case today. Only 2% of those in Israel are presently known to be Christian, and I'm talking about all sorts of Christians, and only about 0.4% are born again. And this is a country where it is sometimes difficult to identify as a born again Christian because of the amount of persecution. Thank God for the last few years where Messianic Jews have started to come to the forefront. Now there are more and more Messianic Jew congregation. That is, people who identify as Jews but are worshiping Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. And there are many of them coming up. Of course, there are still persecutions. There are still hurdles in terms of legalities that hinder them to fully express themselves as Christians. But God is doing a new thing among the Jews. And I want to encourage you to pray for the Jews, pray for the Israelites, pray for missionaries to be sent among them, pray that more and more people will come to the Lord, pray that churches there would grow and they will be relevant to those around them. Pray for Christians to stand out in the midst of this conflict between the Arabs and the Palestinians and the Jews, so that Christians will not take sides, but they will stand for Christ. And through this painful period, more and more people will come to the Lord. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you next week when we go to the second part of the interview with Zane and his wife.
Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody else.